Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Noisy Golfer, the Noisy Golf podcast, brought to you by Noisy Golf. And we're also pleased to announce to you our new sponsors, ADCON Consultancy, who are our media and marketing partners as well on all things digital. Feel free to check out the link below to learn more about ADCON Consultancy. We are absolutely delighted to have with us today somebody who we've got to know very well following our launch of Noisy Golf last year, and it's Ellie Perks. Ellie, how are you?
I'm not doing too bad, thank you. Thank you for having me on here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. As I say, we've got to know you really well. And I think that last year wasn't too long after we launched. We did a really good Q&A with you as part of our blog section as well. And obviously we've followed you since. Now the world's getting a little bit more back to normal. Golf is at the forefront. There's obviously, we can play a lot more compared to when we were obviously first speaking. First of all, how are you and how's your golf?
And how's your back?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. You were out for a little while there.
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. It's like you say, it's great to see that the world's finally opening up again with golf clubs, and my back's doing great. I'm back out competing, so that's been a dream since I had the operation. So it's all going good. Thank you very much.
Superb. And how's the game looking at the moment? More importantly, now you've been able to get back into it.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised, to be honest, because I would have thought I'd be absolutely rubbish and not be able to hit anything. But no, I've been okay. Obviously, a few rusty areas, which we need to work on with my coach, but that's to be expected. So no, I'm pretty happy with it, and hopefully it continues.
You mentioned there that you were competing again. So what's been your latest competition?
Yeah, so I've just competed in the Justin Rose Ladies Series with EDGA. So that's the European Disabled Golf Association. And there was 4 of us, so there was 3 other players with MS on the first one at Northants, and then there was 2 players with MS and a girl with cerebral palsy and myself. So yeah, it's been great to be able to compete alongside the pros and get disability golf out there.
So superb. And I think one of the obviously the main subjects that we wanted to talk to you about today, because we know that you're a massive campaigner for what you do, not just from in the sport that you love, but helping to introduce people with all disabilities into golf as well. And that's a really important subject that we wanted to talk to you about today. But how would you say, because obviously there's a lot of activity, there's obviously a lot of companies that are trying to get involved to help and promote disabled sports. How would you describe the current disabled golfing landscape at the moment in terms of where it is, and what do you see the work being done at the moment to help really try and drive that growth?
Yeah, I think the landscape at the moment is probably the highest in terms of inclusivity it's ever been. For example, last year with the European Tour, including disability golf in their events, and also having the pros really keen to get it going. So yeah, it's phenomenal. I think in terms of the future steps, hopefully we'll have something like with the European Tour, but on the Ladies European Tour as well, so that there's females competing on that higher level with the Ladies European Tour pros. So yeah, at the moment I think it's going brilliantly, and like Brenda Lawler, Adam Warby and Kit Poper and all those fabulous names, they're doing fantastically well to get the name out there of disability golf.
Superb. And with regards to yourself and your own golfing aspirations, obviously as you seek to get back to fitness yourself, what are your own aspirations once with regards to your own golfing career?
Yeah, so either going down the playing professional route, if I'm good enough, but no, my main priority would be to eventually open up my own disabled golf academy. So basically that's open to all people with any disability and gives them the opportunity to play golf. And I think as well, the main thing for me is that they're around people like them, because I notice some people when they've got a disability and they go to a normal golf range, they feel quite intimidated because there's nobody like them around them and they feel a little bit insecure. So hopefully providing that will make people feel more confident and reassured that they're in a safe place to give it a go.
Yeah. I think there's probably value just touching there. You're talking about opening your own disabled golf facility, which would be amazing. You're 17?
I'm 17 on Friday, yeah.
Oh, happy birthday for Friday. You're 17 on Friday. So, I mean, what you've achieved so far already and your aspirations, you know, you're definitely a bit of a force behind disabled golf, and you know, I hope that you do get to achieve, you know, and meet your dreams there. But yeah, 17.
It's amazing. It puts things in perspective, because I know that when we've done the Q&A, you've obviously already received a lot of, you know, acclamation for what you've done so far. I think, you know, particularly through England Golf and in the videos that you've done for Hagley Golf Club as well, where you've obviously, you know, again, you ingratiated yourself to, you know, to be one of the leading figureheads really into growing, you know, participation for disabled golf as well. It's an amazing story. It would be really good on that subject to sort of, if we can go back a few steps, if we can sort of retrace your own entry into golf, and also as well, it would also really be good to highlight the challenges that you've had along the way, and what's being done to help facilitate inclusion with regards to, you know, your own personal journey into golf too.
Yeah, so to sum it all up, I got into golf. Basically, it's quite a unique pathway, I suppose, because there's not, I think there's one golf club in Shirley that have this charity, and I got into it through an organisation called Golf for Disabled Children. So it was literally like an eye-opener. There was a charity called For Disabled Children there, so you couldn't get, you know, much better in terms of having it facilitating people with disabilities. So yeah, so my dad was always a keen golfer. He played at Hagley, like you said there. So he wanted to take me up. I was about 12. And he said, come on, let's go to the range and see what you think of it. And I think I was just fascinated by how people hit the ball. I was like, wow, that's gone really far. I want to do that. And then the pro came up to us, the head pro, and he said, look, we've got a charity called Golf for Disabled Children. It looks like Ellie would be really keen to give it a go. Does she want to try it out? And they're free golf lessons, so you don't have to pay. So I think people with disabilities who need more attention for their disability in terms of providing wheelchairs and things, or things around the house. Obviously, golf is really expensive for that type of thing. So for them to be able to offer that to other people is really good. So yeah, we went down and they gave me a little golf club, and they obviously taught me the basics and how to set up the ball. Obviously took a while to get it hitting a ball, but as soon as I did it, I was like, wow, this feels really cool. So yeah, I started taking it up through that. And the main reason I wanted to pursue with it was literally the fact that we didn't know anybody with my condition that played golf in the whole of the country, if the world. And I think my dad got in touch with England Golf and said, obviously, my daughter really is into golf and she really wants to find someone that's like her. And then it took us a while, but now we've got quite a few people playing. So yeah, it's just been brilliant. And I think with the challenges, it just makes you stronger. So for example, like, you know, if people are criticising you for not being able to outdrive them because you're off the red tees, or saying the odd joke, saying, Hatch, you must have a good short game or whatever. I think people must take that, you know, saying, just knock it off the shoulder, which I think that's the bit where you either do it in terms of continuing it, or you give up and stop. And I think that for me is one of the main things, is trying to get to people, yeah, the world's not a nice place. You're always going to get a bit of criticism, which is annoying, but you're always going to get it and you're never going to get rid of it, but it's how you deal with it. And if you have people around you that have either got your condition or a disability, or a really good organisation of people around you, then that's just fab. And the golf club at Hagley has been absolutely brilliant in terms of, I said to them last year, I think it was, saying, right, we need to get some buggy paths on here, because in the winter it gets absolutely drenched, and a lot of golf clubs probably do. And it's not just for people with disabilities either. It's like seniors, you know, a lot of seniors as well. And in terms of a business perspective as well, if they want to obviously not be able to use buggies, then they're going to lose out on a lot of money in terms of not providing those buggies, in terms of memberships, because obviously seniors as well can't play. So yeah, I said to them, right, we need to get some buggy paths, and now they're doing them. So they've been really good in terms of trying to make it an inclusive area.
Yeah.
And really helped me on my journey.
What does it actually take, do you think, to make a golf club inclusive? Because, you know, I think, like we've both discussed, a lot of golf clubs there, you see they're paying lip service to it, but when you actually get to the websites and you're looking for, you know, what facilities they've got available, what support they've got available, you know, what does it take? What should they have? What do you think kind of, I don't know, the 5 basics, if you like, to make sure that you are at least starting on a journey to be an inclusive golf club?
Yeah, I think, you know, it shouldn't take somebody with a disability to say, right, you need to sort something out about this.
It should be there anyway, ready. Yeah,
it should be there anyway. So I think if it comes down to common sense and common knowledge, like if you're a golf club owner or an architect or whatever, and you want to make that inclusive and you want to take that next step, then it should be inside your heart thinking, yeah, I want to do something for this person. I want to do something for these people to make this golf club. And it's going to do your club good as well, because, you know, people are going to talk about it thinking, oh yeah, this club really had a good facility in terms of inclusivity. So it all comes down to the heart, and if you're willing to put the effort in to actually make it an inclusive place.
With that in mind, and it's amazing to hear what your own experience has been with Hagley Golf Club. If you were to travel to golf clubs within a certain, you know, within a fairly close geographical location, what are how do they compare to what Hagley have done? And is there evidence already from the other golf clubs that I'm sure you've played in the local area or even further afield where there's still a lot of work to be done? And if so, what areas are there that they need to improve upon?
100%. I think Hagley is a great place in itself, and like I said, their facilities, they've got, you know, buggy paths now. They're trying to make the course just accessible for everyone. But I think in terms of when you go to another club, there are hardly any buggy paths, if not any. So, you know, if I went to play that in the winter, they'd just say, sorry, we've got no buggies on, you can't come. And obviously I'd think, oh, okay, I'll just go back to Hagley then. But it shouldn't be like that, because you should be like, oh yeah, I really want to play this course. And they should be like, oh yeah, okay, well, we want to make this a place that you can come and play golf, because like I said before, it should be, in terms of the instinct, like an eye-opener, thinking, oh yeah, I could make a lot of profit out of this as a business. And also have a good name for our club in terms of saying, oh yeah, we've got buggy paths, we've got this, we've got that, to make it all accessible for you to come and have a good day here. But yeah, other clubs around here have hardly got any buggy paths, and like clubs that I've been to further afield are pretty much the same. So yeah, it's going to take a while, I think, but hopefully organisations like England Golf, the Golf Foundation, the RNA will try and get it out there saying, look, you need to get buggy paths, you need to do this to make your club accessible. Because the more you get disabled golf out there, the more people that are going to want to do it. And obviously, if they get turned away, they're going to think, oh, right, okay, I don't want to do this. I'm going to try something else out.
Yeah, I think
it's not the reputation you want.
It's almost as if, though, there should be some, like a pathway or a assessment criteria or something, which these clubs can sign up to, and, you know, they can take the steps to meet the relevant criteria to then make their golf club a lot more friendly to disabled golfers and disabled people in general. You know, we're not just talking about the people that want to play golf there, but there's people that go along, you know, with their relatives, with their family. And when you actually look at it, you've mentioned buggies and things there. One of the things I was going to ask you was about the challenges that you come up. I mean, you come across challenges anyway in your daily life. When it comes to the golf course, you've obviously got the terrain, you've got carrying equipment, you've got bunkers, there's things like these that, you know, I haven't really stopped to think about. I mean, what's your experience with those kind of challenges?
Yeah, I think in terms of like the actual parts of the course, like you say, bunkers and hazards, I think a lot of bunkers, for example, I've been, obviously, you don't want to go in a bunker anyway, because it's golf. You don't really want to be in a bunker. But obviously, if you end up in it, then I think a lot of bunkers that I've seen, needs a few steps in it as well, like in terms of, you know, steps to get in and out, because crikey, some bunkers are not steep, and you know, you have to end up jumping in and either hurting yourself or causing a risk to hurting yourself, and you don't want that, because you know, you don't want to say, oh yeah, I had to come in because I fell in a bunker or fell over in a bunker or whatever. So a lot of them need, I think, steps so that they can access it easily, and with ramps, so like rails, so that they can actually get in without having to say to their partners, oh, can you come and help me get in that, because it can feel a bit embarrassing doing that. So I think a lot of, like, you know, bunkers and things need like steps with rails and things so they can actually access them.
I think there's two things that have struck me there, and I think that one of them you referred to just a few minutes ago, but I think it's a really important subject, is that you might have somebody that sees golf, whether it's on the TV or through a relative that plays, and they arrive at their local club and it's not set up, and they could be put off on their first impression, which I think is a massive concern, because obviously, you know, when I think about, you know, I or Isaac's experience into golf, is that, you know, I'm sure you've had this yourself, is, and you referred to it earlier, is that golf brings with it a very unique level of unique joy to it when you first, you know what I mean? Then that enthusiasm, I think, stays with you quite a lot during the early days, and I can't imagine the feeling of arriving with that sort of newfound joy, only to be then sort of wanting that your local, you know, either practice range or golf course isn't able to accommodate you. Which I think is a really interesting subject in its own right. Do you think?
There should be some criteria which they can meet, which says that we are, you know, a disabled, or like you mentioned earlier, elderly friendly club. You know, we've got things in place that will support your golf journey and support you while you know, and enjoy this sport. Yeah,
this is it. If for example, either England Golf just set out a criteria to all golf clubs and just sent out a thing saying, right, have you got this? Have you got that? If not, you need to do it. And if a golf club can't afford it, then maybe like England Golf providing them a bit of money to encourage them to do it and say, look, this must be done for you to be able to let these people, you know. So I think if England Golf set out a criteria saying, right, have you got bunkers with stairs and the railing so people are able to access them easily? Have you got buggy paths? Have you got this? Have you got that? Have you got easy accessible greens so that you don't have to, because a lot of buggies as well is that they have like these trackers on so that you can't go to a certain place before the green. It's so annoying, and then it stops and then you have to end up pushing it if you go past, and I'm like, oh, but luckily I have someone with me, but if I was on my own I'd be absolutely stuck. I wouldn't know what to do, because I wouldn't be able to push a buggy and break my back. So it's just things like that, and as I said, having accessible greens so that they don't have to walk an absolute mile to get to it from the buggy path or whatever. So it's just things like that. But if England Golf set out a criteria or the RNA and said, right, you need to have this, you need to have that, and if you can't fund it all yourself, then we can give you this much to help you fund it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier one of the competitions that you've recently been in is an EDGA competition. What can you tell us about them? And obviously, when you go to their competitions, how is it different?
So EDGA is the European Disabled Golf Association. So that's basically like a massive organisation within the European golf, and it's got, so basically you get like an EDGA pass. So it's free, you don't have to pay for it, and you become an EDGA player, and you can play in any event you want, whether that's abroad, in England, or wherever you live, and you can play with people with a disability, so that it's a much fairer field than your standard club comp or your national competition. For example, the English Disability Open, which is run by England Golf, but it's an EDGA event as well because you get world ranking points. So you've got either Stableford, Nets, Gross. For example, you've got Kit Poper, who was obviously on the European Tour the other month or so ago, with EDGA. So they provide European Tour opportunities for the top 8 ranked disability players. So obviously that's amazing because, you know, some of the, I think Kip wants to turn pro if he hasn't already, and he's got cerebral palsy in his bottom half, and he won the English Open with a disability. So, you know, it just shows that even though these players have got a disability, they can perform at this high level. And EDGA have done a massive job. And like you say, with the Rose Series, it's not as level with the men's side yet. Well, it never has been in any way, has it really? But with the Rose Series, obviously, they've provided the buggies. So the buggies have been provided. They've obviously got pads. And I think they've allowed, let us go off about half an hour before. And we're off the same tees as the pros as well. So it's literally the same level. You're getting the experience, and obviously, but no, I think EDGA have done a massive job in terms of that, and hopefully we'll just keep going forward with the criteria and getting inclusivity in golf.
Super. I noticed on Instagram you referenced the tees. How did you how did that impact performance? Because obviously I can imagine the
yeah, it was
the distance, but I can imagine some holes, there's certainly some courses I've played where the position, you know, the actual, you know, the tee shot that you're playing can just be a totally different experience altogether.
Yeah, it was obviously a completely different thing. Like, I've never played off pros tees before, so it was a bit of a, I'd say, not a shock, but like, whoa, this is really hard, like far back. But no, it also helps you with course management, because as you said there, it's like you're thinking, oh, well, I would have played the shot of that tee, but here I've got to play something else. So it changes your mindset completely. And I think it also appreciates how good some of these players are on the actual tours.
Yes.
Because, you know, shooting like under par rounds is just phenomenal. And then the greens are completely different to club standard, like 14 on the stimp or something, which is ridiculously fast. But again, it's making it inclusive, and it's, you know, getting those people with a disability playing on that level and showing, yeah, we can play on the same tees as pros, we can play on the same course, and hopefully that will just keep on going next year.
Superb. I mean, one of the other things that we also wanted to talk about as well is because obviously disabled golf, it's polarized in terms of, you know, the full extent of the disability itself, but also what we wanted to try and emphasize the conversation towards was junior disabled golf as well. Obviously you've entered golf at a very early age, and well, obviously you're still so young considering the amazing work that you've done. So I suppose conquering disabled access is one thing, but what is then done to try and empower junior disabled golfers again to promote their involvement as well?
Yeah, obviously a lot of the disabled golf community is full of adults and people in their 20s or mid-20s. So, yeah, I think the person that I played with at the closest age is Heather Gilks, who's from Coventry, and I think she's a bit younger than me. No, she's similar. I think she's the same age. But, you know, that's the only person I've came across that's a similar age to me that plays in the EDGA community or with a disability. So I think in terms of getting the participation in with junior disabled golf is making it fun and making it encouraging, because golf can be, some juniors, if they're, you know, I use when I do the sessions a lot, I use this brand called Colour Path Golf, which is like you've got a bag full of kit, which is all like rulers, alignment sticks, putting plates, mats, and all sorts. And it's basically full of different colours, so red, green, yellow, blue. And it really encourages the youngsters to get into golf, because they see this colour and you can make a lot of fun games out of it. So I think the main thing is you need to keep it fun. But the one thing that you shouldn't do, especially with like parents, is force them into it. Don't obviously force your kids into doing it if they don't want to, because if you should, like my dad says to other parents, to me anyway, it should be the kid wanting to go. Obviously, if you're like, come on, let's go, come on, let's go, let's go, and they're like, I don't want to, I'm not interested, then there's no point keep forced, because it's just going to give them a bad wrong representative of golf. But if the child's like, yeah, I really want to go and have a range session on Skytrack Bay, or just a general range, go to the range, then that's how it should be, and that shows then that they're wanting to do it.
Yeah.
We spoke with Andy Little a couple of weeks back now from Little Golfers, and Andy mentioned that when he first started out, there was a lot of funding for him to get involved with the schools, local schools, and he was going into these schools and he was teaching children about golf, getting them involved, lots of fun, lots of games. He also said that part of what he was doing was working with children with disabilities who, have never had access to golf before. All of a sudden, they're trying something new, they're engaging on whatever level their ability allows, but they're engaging with this sport, they're enjoying it, they're having fun. What he mentioned was that there was lots of funding around at the time that supported that. Do you think that there should be more golf in schools, more golf access to kind of specialist schools for disabled children? What's your take on the whole kind of primary age children within golf?
Yeah, I think, like you say, schools is a massive part of it, because if they're introduced to it at school, then obviously every child's got to go to school pretty much. So obviously if they've got it provided to them and the people coming to them, then it's it's not a choice as such. They're like being provided it straight away. So I think in terms of like funding, obviously if somebody wants to go and deliver a session and they can't quite afford the equipment, then obviously like going back to like England Golf, whether they could provide a little bit of funding for them, but at least they're trying to make a difference and trying to show that to these youngsters. Also as well with the youngsters, if they've got their school friends with them, and people that they get along well with, and they can have a really good time and really good fun, then like I said, if you're making enjoyment out of it, having fun games, they could have little games against their friends, because children can be very competitive. So I think just making it as fun as possible. But if you're delivering it to the school, then it's a massive opportunity for them to say to their parents when they go back, "Oh, Dad or Mom, I've just tried golf out today. I want to go and have a lesson." Yeah, and that's where the key bit is. That's where the key bit is. If you've got your child if you're delivering that session and you've got the child remembering that and going, "Oh yeah, I really enjoyed this, I want to go and give it a go," then that's how you're going to get it more.
Yeah, can I just say, sorry, our nephew is actually, he's got Down syndrome and he attends a special school. And the access that he's had, to kind of, it started off with like when he was younger, and he's 15 now. He had access to swimming. He's now at the age where he's trying kayaking. He was horse riding with his school. That wasn't something that at the time his parents thought that he would take an interest in, or that they had access to. It wasn't something that any of them had kind of had a background in. But by providing those opportunities to him amongst his friends who were also doing the same thing, he kind of flourished. It was I think it's really important when you put children in that kind of environment, that school environment. They're with the friends, they're more likely to try new things, they're more likely to engage with what's on offer. They've got
their friends to encourage them as well.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Yeah,
they go on their own and they've got no idea what that sport is or game is, then it's very unlikely that they're just going to turn up to a golf club and go, "Oh yeah, I want to give golf a go." They'll probably have no idea what it is at that age. So if they've got somebody coming into it, to the school, providing it, like you say, with their friends around them, it's just a whole different environment for them, and it's very likely for them to give it a go.
I think what's really interesting from this, I feel like I've got so many
he's
things.
Scribbling every time you say something. He's scribbling.
Because I think fundamentally what it comes down to is that it's the introduction in really early years. Regardless of ability, or even because I think what you've referenced earlier on is that your entry into golf was based on your father being interested in golf. Is that right? And when I think back to when I first started playing, there was only 4 channels on the TV, and my dad started showing an interest in it.
Nice.
No, but then I learned. But then I think that, I look at Isaac now. Isaac's 8 years old, and I'm pretty confident that he's the only person in his school that plays golf. But I'm also very confident in saying that if golf was introduced in schools, there would be more than just one person that was interested in golf, because golf's got that very magical thing about it. But there's also a few other things that have come to mind that I just really wanted to learn a little bit more about, because there's two subjects I think we haven't touched on yet, which is one, as a disabled golfer, what access do you have in terms of the equipment that you would have in the bag? And additionally is from the coaching side as well, which is, coaching with disabilities is obviously very different to coaching people without disabilities. So you've obviously worked with a coach who you've referenced who was involved in that organization. So it sounds like you've had a great start in that respect. But to the layman, what would you say has been your experience with equipment, and then just moving on to coaching as well?
Yeah, I think with equipment, equipment can be a very difficult subject for people, because, they've got to go and get custom fitted, which can cost an awful lot of money. Like, nowadays you've got drivers that are costing like 500 quid or something silly.
Yeah.
And if that, it's probably more nowadays. And obviously for one golf club, that's a lot of money. And like going back to what I said before, if there is a person with a disability and their parents are solely having to base their income on that need for their child with their disability, whether it's medicines or disabilities and wheelchairs and carers and all sorts, that can take a lot of their money and a lot of their time. So I think in terms of clubs, I think England Golf actually have a thing where you can apply to get, I think it's Ping Prodigy.
Okay.
Because I know a young lad with my condition, I think he's about 14 or 15, who's just applied for it, and he's just got given the set. I think it's the England Golf Trust, and people can apply for it if obviously they're struggling to. But I think that is brilliant in itself, because it shows that even if you haven't got the money, you can still take golf
available.
And there's something out there for them to go to and get the clubs needed. But in terms of coaching, obviously, I've got a coach at the Warwickshire at the moment, but I'm doing a college course for, and he's I think disabled certified, so he's done like extra training to coach people with disabilities. But obviously they're very they're just they treat you with a lot of respect, which obviously they should do, but also some coaches might not, because they might think, oh, somebody with a disability, no, I can't be bothered, I want to do somebody else who's an elite athlete or something like that. And again, it's going to like the club side of things. It's whether you've got it in your heart if you actually want to provide that for them. And that's different.
It's almost,
that needs to come from the top though as well. Whoever is leading in those clubs, they're the ones that have got to be saying, okay, this is what we are, this is who we're about, this is who we're about, this is what we are, and then this is what we're going to provide, this is how we're going to meet everybody's needs, and it's going to be an equal club. It's really got to come from the top. It's all right, like you've said, it's got to be in the heart that they want to coach that person, but ultimately there's somebody there above them that is running that whole show that needs to say, no, this is what we do, this is the values of our club, this is how we operate. So I do think it's got to come from the top as well.
No, I think there's, it's almost, I think you could argue, I think it's got to come from not just the golf clubs themselves, but I think that as we talked about with Andy Little, is that there has to be that earlier introduction in schools.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, you've, again, reflecting on your own experience, what you've described is that you've gone to your golf club, you've been introduced to this and to this charity, and your golfing journey has blossomed, and you've obviously been able to contribute to getting other people involved as well. But as a result of that, the golf club has then provided the facilities to sustain your involvement in that club. Whereas if the golf clubs don't have disabled people going to them or practice facilities, then there isn't really any need for them to do that. So it's almost like you need to make the introduction into golf earlier that facilitates the drive and growth. But as a result of that, the golf clubs would then need to, it's ultimately, do they need to react or be proactive in terms of setting, you know what I mean? It's like, because if ultimately, if disabled golfers aren't going to golf courses, I suppose the argument from them would be, especially when funds might be quite low, is that what is the point? You know, and that sounds a very, very harsh thing to say, but I suppose that's the reality, isn't it?
No, I do think that they need to be proactive. It needs to be something that they, you know, they sign up to, if you like, to say, yes, this is who we are and this is what we offer. And I do think then that more disabled golfers would come through, because they know that it's not saying it's a law or something or a legal requirement, it's the wrong way to go about it. But if they know that those golf clubs have to commit to providing relevant facilities for them, then it's not a question of whether those facilities will be there. They should just be able to turn up and those facilities are there. And if those facilities can't be provided immediately, then there should be an action plan put into place to say, okay, you know, we do want you coming to our club. What do we need to provide to support your journey? How do we go about this? And, you know, and whether that's like, you know, well, the toilet is actually upstairs and that's not something that I can access right now. Okay, well, we need to put a plan in place to make sure that we've got facilities on the ground floor. Or like you said about the buggies and the buggy paths. Okay, well, this is something we need to work towards. So I think it's about, initially, yes, they need to be proactive and they need to start themselves on that journey. But ultimately, they also need to listen to the people that are going there, and they need to be providing based on individual needs. And I know that's quite difficult, and that would provide lots of unique needs that need to be met. But, you know, overall, that person is a patron of that club ultimately, and, you know, they might be a member of that club, and they need to make sure that they're meeting the needs of their members, regardless of disability or ability. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. It's like you said, it should be coming from the top, and also the willingness for them to want to do it. Like the owner of my club, Hagley, as soon as I met him from day one, he was like, right, what do I need? What do you need to be able to play here? What do you want? And it should be like that at all clubs. It shouldn't be you going to the owner saying, right, where's the buggy path? Why aren't there any toilets on the ground floor? Why is the range upstairs? Why is this here? Why is that there? There's no disabled car parking spaces, so on. And it shouldn't be the person doing that. It should be the owner going to them and saying, right, have we got, is everything okay? Is everything at your needs? Is there anything that isn't? Please let me know, or whatever. And then it's, you know, and that puts a good reputation on that club as well, because it's showing that they're really keen to provide that support and that, you know, the needs and the facilities for their members or visitors.
Yeah, it almost sounds like there needs to be disabled representation within each golf club. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. No, I just feel like this has started a really, really interesting conversation, hasn't it? Because I think, you know, again, I can only reference, you know, my own experiences when I go into clubs, and I'll be honest, I've not seen a disabled player. I've not seen a disabled golfer, certainly in the local area where I play, or otherwise. And
I still think though, regardless, and I think, like I mentioned earlier as well, you've still got this white middle class male within the golf clubs, and not necessarily within the golf clubs, but within the media that they're displaying. So you go to the websites, and yes, they've got all these great photographs of, you know, the members there and they're playing in these competitions and things. But where are the juniors for a start? You don't see any pictures of the juniors on their websites and things. Where are the disabled golfers? You know, how are they representing inclusivity? Where are their policies on that? You know, where are their plans of what they've put into place? You know, ultimately, how are they offering equality for all golfers? And I think that's important, that you want to, you know, okay, so I want to start golf. I you know, I might have a disability and I want to find out what facilities are on offer. You would automatically go to their websites or go to their social media pages, and you would look for what they're offering. Now, if you're only seeing people that don't represent you, straight away you're going to be put off about from that. And then also, if you start looking around and you're looking, well, okay, well, you know, what are they providing here, and you know, how do I fit into all of this? And you're not finding those policies or, you know, those values, if you like, that commit to inclusivity within golf, equality within golf, then straight away you're going to be put off by that, and you're going to come away thinking, well, actually maybe that's not the place that I want to go. There's nobody there that is representing me, there's nobody there that looks like me, and you know, I'm just going to go and have a look somewhere else, kind of thing. Or like you said earlier, it might be, well, that's my local club and that's where I wanted to play, but I can't play there, so I'm just not going to play. And then you get put off. And a lot of the times as well, it's parents that are looking for local clubs for juniors. You know, how are the juniors being represented within all of that? You know, you go along, like I come to Isaac's golf course, I haven't come when he's actually playing competitions. You've obviously said there's other children there.
Yeah.
When I've been with Isaac, I haven't seen any other children there. And it's like, well, how is that the right environment for him when I'm not seeing anything that represents him there?
But I also think there's, again, just speaking about that, there's also a wider conversation to be had in terms of golf courses.
And it's just getting wider and wider, this conversation,
it's something that, you know, as a brand, you know, as an organisation, we want to be able to help spearhead that conversation. But I think that, you know, if we can try and contribute to the debate and help, you know, help sort of remove that stigma and get people involved, then that's you know,
I already want to produce a whole load of criteria now that golf clubs need to meet.
No, but I think I just want to backtrack again slightly to a conversation that earlier in the conversation, when you said the tees that you play off, because again, thinking of the complexities that disabled sport brings in terms of the, you know, the level of disability, as well as and again, I reference this with junior golfers, that, you know, Isaac has the option to play off the whites, the yellows, or the reds, and Isaac plays off the yellows, and nothing will change his mind, and that's fine. But in terms of, again similar, there's no junior tees at a lot of clubs, and you're literally looking at a tee box. Would you say there would needed to be something done to promote a disabled tee in the same way, to, you know, to again make I suppose make golf less intimidating certainly for new beginners into the sport?
There's also got to be an equality about it as well, though. Like you said before, there's some very, very good disabled golfers out there who aren't being represented, and you're not hearing as much about them. So I suppose, like Isaac's quite competitive and says, no, I'm playing off the yellow tees. I suppose there's also a lot of disabled golfers out there that would also say the same. They would say, well, actually, I don't need particularly special requirements. I'm going to compete against you because I know that I can compete against you.
I think that's kind of the attitude a lot of people have. So with regards to, I think if there was such thing as a disability tee, it would make them feel, I would say, quite not embarrassed, but do you know what I mean? That if I say, for example, the club said to me, oh, you have to play off a disabled tee, I'd be like, hey, you what? I'd be like, no, I want to play off the same tees as my competitors. But some people might find it really useful, but I think because of the attitude people with disabilities have in terms of their own backgrounds, a lot of them are very like, no, I want to be on the same playing field as my competitors.
Of course.
And they probably, if they wanted to, probably just play off the junior tees that they've got. Because a lot of clubs nowadays do have cadet tees, I think, dotted in the middle of the fairway somewhere. So obviously, if they are just literally starting golf and they don't think they wanted a little bit of an advantage, then they could probably just play off that. But I think just having a tee named specifically disabled tees,
of course,
they probably find that quite.
It's more, it's not encouraging the
absolutely.
Probably, obviously, I like the sound of what you're saying, but it'd probably push them away, because it would be like saying, "Oh, yeah, you've got to play with the same
100%. Yeah, I think in hindsight, what it probably wasn't. Just thinking out loud, what I was trying to describe is essentially you've got like when I've been to courses, there are green tees for juniors. So what I mean is it's not necessarily a labelling of a tee. So you'd have you've got whites, you've got reds, you've got yellows, you've got greens. It's a colour essentially, but it's something that's going to provide people with the option to make golf less intimidating. So instead of a 500-yard par 5 hole, it might be 260 yards. Say,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? And I think it's that, because I think that we did an Instagram live Q&A with Golf Access, and we know that they do a lot of really good work in getting people into the game. And in essence, they start people from the greens backwards. So they might feel that golf is really appealing to them, but to get a bag of clubs and just walk onto a course and see how long the holes are, it's obviously very intimidating at the same time. So it's in essence, what I'm trying to say is is providing, a more formal tee structure that might encourage people not to be too put off by the length of the holes, essentially.
Well, yeah, I think with like juniors especially, a lot of them like just jump straight to the reds or jump straight to the whites or whatever, and it's like, and then as soon as they go onto that, they think, oh yeah, this is just a doddle. And as soon as they step on it, they're like, oh, okay, I've got to hit it 260 yards to make the fairway. Okay. Obviously, it can be quite daunting. So I think if they've got the option to play on either the cadet tees or the ladies tees, then obviously it's there for them to do it. But like I think Jade said, I think if you kind of saying, oh yeah, with the disabled tees, it's kind of like a little bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think having the junior tees open to them to play on, to start from, or if they just want to play off them, then fair enough, they can do what they want, but as long as they want that option there to do it.
Definitely. In an ideal world, then, if we were to say, I don't know how long things will take to really, for the structure to be in place, to, for golf to be as inclusive as it possible, but as it possibly can be. What would be the first things that you would immediately look at to say, right, this is what a golf club needs to do to get it positioned right, to ultimately be supporting disabled golf as much as it can?
Yeah, I think going back to what I said before, a massive thing for me is buggy paths and making sure there are plenty of buggies accessible for people. So having buggy paths, and that's probably one of my main things. Every person I speak to say, like, if they've asked that question, I'd say, yeah, you need buggy paths. Make sure you got buggy paths, because then that opens a massive area for people to play golf. But as I said before, they don't have to be disabled. They can be seniors, they can be senior women, because obviously seniors can struggle to get around 18 holes because it's not just a 2-minute walk to the shop, it's 4 hours on a course, so it's a long time to be walking around, so obviously but yeah, I think for that, and also making sure that the staff at clubs are very accepting, because there's some times where I've been to a club in particular and the staff have been absolutely horrible in terms of rude, not wanting to help, and not wanting to try and provide those things. And obviously I've never wanted to go to that club again. So it's kind of things like that. So making sure your owners and your staff who are working there are providing that accessibility for the visitors and the members that they've got, and making sure that they treat them with respect as if they treat a family relative.
Yeah, it comes from the top, doesn't it? It's all of those things that should be implemented as part of that business ultimately.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of synergies, because I think that when we, again, just referencing back to the conversation that we had with Andy Little, is that when we were talking about golf in schools, it's almost like if there isn't anybody with a golfing experience in a school, then they can't start that conversation. And I suppose in the same way with the golf club, if you haven't got access, if you haven't got experience in working within a disabled environment or with, with people with disabilities, then you might not know where to start. And it's almost like there needs to be that, that it needs to come from a real experience and knowledge base in order to be able to spearhead that, the strategy to put things in place that, that promotes inclusivity across all levels.
I think like that, I think, whether in the future it is England Golf that do it or the RNA, obviously those two organisations are massive in themselves. Like England Golf's a governing body of amateur golf in England, so obviously you can't get much bigger in terms of the representation of golf. So obviously if England Golf did set out a criteria to all clubs saying that you've got to have this to make your club friendly for people, for seniors and people with a disability, then obviously that's something that I think really needs to be done. In terms of if England Golf can do that, that obviously be really good, because obviously there's loads of golf clubs around England, but you could go to one golf club, it'd be absolutely brilliant with facilities, and then go to the other, they haven't got a single buggy at their club. So it's just things like that. And I think if England Golf set out that criteria saying, yeah, you need this, you need that, you need to do this, you need to do that, and if you haven't, you need to do it. If you can't afford it, then we can fund it for you. And just things like that, it will make a massive difference, I think.
Yeah,
super. I think what would be great for us, and if there are any people from England Golf watching this, is if you could get in touch and reach out, because we would love to continue this conversation, because it sounds like there's just so much more that needs to be done. And again, to promote that, not only the game, but to real growth in this area, and provide access to people that otherwise wouldn't have it.
But I think England Golf in themselves, when I've spoken to quite a few people, like for example, this year I've done a few of the events in terms of the score recording side of things. So I've got to know the staff and got to know the people who do the events, and it's obviously great being able to watch the event and how it's ran. But obviously, there's one of the tournament directors there who I don't think it kind of I think it's opened his eyes in terms of the disabled community. And he was quite, I think, taken aback by obviously, the amount of emphasis that us people with disabilities give. So I think England Golf in themselves are quite, I don't think they know what to do themselves, which is a little bit, do you know what I mean? Like, because I've said quite a few things to them about golf clubs, and they're like, okay, yeah, we want, like the CEO and things. I think I really wanted to push it, but they're a little bit stuck in what actually needs to be done, and they're a little bit like.
I suppose it sounds like they need people like you with real life experience in order to facilitate that.
It's like I've spoke obviously.
Representation.
I think it's like just having that representation. I think, like you say, if they've got somebody, obviously I've spoken to a couple of them about buggy paths and about buggies and loads of things behind the scenes and things, but I think it's like if they've got somebody there who's actually a disabled player themselves, then it really helps, I think, for them to actually understand. Because I think if they just think, oh yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that, but we actually don't know what to do, then it doesn't sound very professional, does it?
No, I think I was thinking back to one of the videos on the EDGA website where one of the gentlemen was speaking about is, if you haven't got a plan from the start, nothing happens.
Yeah,
is essentially that. And I think that it's very interesting what you've said, and it's really appreciate your candor in talking about this subject, because it almost like it does need somebody to really shake things up to put to provide the access that's needed.
I personally feel, and the more I've spoken to you today as well, is that there isn't that representation in the juniors. There isn't those junior golfers that have disabilities that are coming through, that have kind of got people there that are saying, what do you need, what how do we provide it? And I think without that being there initially, and without those coming through initially, I mean I would love for anybody to reach out to us that is a junior golfer that has got a disability. Reach out to us, let's hear about your journey, because I haven't seen anybody, and whether that is just me in my own little world, kind of not looking at the bigger picture here, when we look at our followers and things like that, I'm not seeing disabled junior golfers. And for you, golf for disabled children is something that you're working with. We're not seeing them come through. Where are they, and how are they being represented?
It's like with the Draw Sports Association, I've been massively pushing, to do golf activities for them. I think we did one last Sunday, and we've got another one next Sunday on the 24th, which is the day before Dwarfism Awareness Day. So, and we did some back in 2019. We had a massive turnout, and to be able to provide that for them is obviously brilliant. But now we're having people taking it up, people getting in touch with myself, saying, you know, right, I've really enjoyed this session. What do I do? What can I do? And if you've got somebody like that who can, whether advise people or, you know, on their own experiences, then I think that's brilliant, because that's the way forward, I think. And I think if people are seeing, it's like with swimming, for example. If you look at Ellie Simmons, and now look at how many classifications there are in the Paralympics. There's so many different classifications for men. You've got obviously the SMH6, I think it's called, for people with short stature, and different categories, impairments and things. So, but at the moment, look at golf, it's not even in the Paralympics. So until you've got that awareness, it's like, it's really like a bang on the head.
Do you know what? I'm really glad you've mentioned that, because again, just in doing a bit of research just before this conversation, because it is obviously something we really want to treat seriously, is that of the 7 new Olympic sports that were introduced, none of them reached the required standard for them to be entered for basically for Paralympic involvement. So where you've got, like, you know, things like I think wall climbing, skateboarding, you know, all of these new exciting sports basically didn't have enough people performing at the required level for it to be taken on and actually entered into the Paralympics, which I think speaks volumes for what needs to be done, not just exclusively across golf, but across many other sports and disciplines as well.
100%.
I agree. Yeah.
Fantastic. No, I feel like there's so much. I feel like this is just the start of a very important conversation.
It's important though, because you know, these conversations open our eyes, and you know, that's what needs to happen. You know, people that follow us, follow Noisy Golf, people that are following you, it's about them seeing these conversations and thinking, well, yeah, actually I want to take action, and you know, I want to move things forward. You know, I want to be represented within golf, you know, regardless of you know, age, race, disability, anything like that. And it's about them then kind of like shouting up and saying, yes, I'm here, this is me, and you know, this is what my requirements are. So I think it's really important that we're getting that information out there. But I mean, we're learning all the time from everybody that we speak with. We're learning from them about, you know, their journeys into golf, and you know, the things that they've come across, and obviously their experiences, things like that. And that's, for us, it's about, yes, we're taking all of this on board, but we want to push it further. We want to push that question further. We want to, you know, we want to find the answers. And you know, I don't think we can find them all, but with everybody's help along the way, we're trying.
Like I say, with like people who work for them, you know, they've all really wanted to help, but it's just getting that, I suppose, discussion. Like I said, I wanted to get a meeting organised with like the CEO and his like PA, as they call it, or like communications director, and the tournament directors and the referees, saying, look, I want to do something about this, and they still haven't done anything. So it's like, it's frustrating, but
need the action.
No, I'm so glad we took the time to really discuss this, because I feel like, as I say, you know, as we were saying just before we started recording, you know, we're not experts in these areas, but I think that as we've grown into the golfing community, it's become abundantly clear that there's so many good things that are happening, but there's also so much work that needs to be done in very specific areas to help continue that, you know, that spear that next generation, as Jade referenced before. You know, where is that junior golf representation? And I can imagine you obviously strike me as a very competitive individual, and I'm sure that you would welcome, you know, like a flurry of people to compete against, and you know, and I can imagine.
I love it.
Yeah, so I can also sense quite a bit of frustration in what you're saying as well, understandably. So, you know, it's I'm so glad we took the time to go through these things, and I sincerely think this isn't just the start of this conversation. I just feel like there's so many more things that will be discussed from upcoming guests on the podcast, which we'll be announcing shortly, to continue this conversation with. It's absolutely fascinating, and I think from our point of view, we're just trying to do what we can to, you know, to give this campaign and a real push.
It's
really,
about it's absolutely about the inclusivity and about the equality within it, and yeah, I think that conversation needs to keep happening. And you know, if there's people out there that want to ask Ellie questions, or you know, have got journeys that they want to share, then you know, get in touch with either or, and let us know your journeys, let us know your questions. I'm sure Ellie will be more than happy to point you in the right direction. So yeah.
Absolutely. And for those of you, and thanks so much for listening. And obviously this is the 7th edition of the Noisy Golfer podcast, and we've spoken to really many people from, you know, coaches and players, and obviously wonderful people like Ellie as well, from all different backgrounds about their own golfing journey. The podcast is now available obviously on our YouTube channel, which you may be watching already, but we're now on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on Google, and many other platforms too, to give you as much opportunity as you can to hear about all of our content. Also as well, if you do feel like this is a subject where you've got a genuine experience that you'd like to share with us, do feel free excuse me, to reach out to our Facebook pages at Noisy Golf, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook,
Direct to Ellie,
and also
as well.
LinkedIn,
Yeah,
as well.
direct
And
to
also
Ellie.
as well, please give Ellie a follow on social media as well, where you can find her at Ellie Perks Golf. And again, I think it's just a conversation starter. I feel like we've gone over so many things.
I feel like we need to pick up with Ellie again in a couple of months' time and see where we go with this.
But I think it would be great for us, you know, for those of you out there, if you are watching and you've experienced, you know, something similar, or you are experiencing a journey that that perhaps is providing, you know, too many challenges that you'd like, then we'd love to hear about that, and we'd love to get you on the podcast too, to be able to share your journey and help really, you know, and drive this campaign to, you know, to improve things, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
Fantastic. Ellie, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
the time to speak with us. It's been absolutely fantastic. And please do feel free to give us a like and subscribe, hit the notification bell on YouTube as well, so you can check out all of the latest content that we'll bring to you from the Noisy Golfer. Thank you.
Thanks.